week in racing. It's time to recap it. And who better to do it than Michael New Magic? Two bros/pros who cover the highs and lows of racing around the globe on every one of their shows. Real fans look forward to these guys and their last thoughts, cause they know they're not talking out of their royal ascot. What they say makes sense. So ladies and gents, sit back and relax as Blinkers Off presents The Magic Mike Show, where you hear the experts speak. The Magic Mike Show. Tune into the show every week. The Magic Mike Show. You can trust the show is the bomb because it's being brought to you by RacingDudes.com.
What's up, everybody? I'm Magic.
And I'm Mike.
And this is The Magic Mike Show, episode 350. Mr. Somich.
Huzzah!
It's a milestone number, kind of, at 350. It's in the middle there. I was typing it up this morning when I was preparing the show, and I thought, that's kind of a decent number there. But I guess a sign that we're doing things well and being more professional is that we went, milestone number. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. Just did a 2-hour show over on Equinedge, talking a little Gulfstream all day. Went through some of the Fairgrounds card. Excited to hit up the Gulfstream card for Saturday here.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting. We're looking at the late pick 4 sequence at Gulfstream. It's going to have the Gulfstream Park Sprint Stakes. That's the headlining, the feature event. And it's only 6 horses, but it's pretty much drain the clock versus Diamond Dupes. So Mike and I are going to debate that one and talk about where we go on top. It's going to be I think it's going to be a fun sequence because I think that one trainer in particular is going to have a really big day while everybody else is watching what happens at Fairgrounds. But before we get into it, Mike, what's the best thing that you saw?
You know, I hadn't really dove into it yet. I'm going to give it to the Fairgrounds card on Saturday. Don't love the takeout at that track, but man, that card is loaded. I mean, you've got some big fields. You've got some prices that I like all over the place. So I actually loved going through that Fairgrounds card and kind of going, okay, who do we like here? Who do we like here? I think you're going to see some big prices that get strung together. And even with Smile Happy, who I think is probably going to end up winning there in the last, I think you can still get paid on that late pick 5. So the Fairgrounds card top to bottom is excellent.
Really, if it wasn't for the takeout, Fairgrounds might be the best track in the country. Because not only do they when they have big days like today, they put out some really great products. Like you've got 13 races, and they're not all bangers. Some of them are claimers, but even the claiming races, like from a handicapping perspective, you can't be mad about what you're getting. But the reason I say that also is because they put their shit out a week early. We have a week to sit here and think about it and talk about it and get excited about it. And it's not like, it's Wednesday night. Gulfstream just put their card out. Guess I'll get excited tomorrow. It's like, no, I've got a freaking week to do it. So I always appreciate Fairgrounds. Just Twin Spires, please fix the takeout a little bit, please. We're asking Twin Spires to not be greedy, so good luck with that.
Yeah, good luck. Yeah, that's not happening, man. Twin Spires doesn't fix anything. They break things.
That's true. Listen, speaking of Fairgrounds, we have the inside track to the Risen Star Stakes wagering guide, which is available now at RacingNews.com. If you are a monthly subscriber to either the premium products or the Somobombs or the Rockets or any combination thereof, you get it for free. And with it being the Kentucky Derby Trail season, we're going to be putting these guides out very regularly. We're already doing that. So it's a great time to be a subscriber. You can get the Bombs, the premium products, the Rockets, whatever you want to do. Just check that out. But the inside track to the Risen Star Stakes wagering guide is available. As Mike said, that card looks incredible at Fairgrounds. It's so incredible we stayed away from it because we're like, listen, you want to play Fairgrounds, everything that's in the guide or everything that you need is going to be in the guide. And frankly, I'm not going to do a better job than Aaron Halterman, so go check his shit out.
It's going to be a fun day. And then the Philly race right before it is absolutely wide open as well. I mean, you got Lecrae on the inside that's 8-1. That seems like a wild overlay. You got Hidden Connection, who I really like, who's on the outside. I think you got to pass on Hidden Connection. I mean, she's going to be stacked 4 or 5 wide. It's going to be a tough trip. So I kind of like some of those horses at the inside or maybe coming from a little off the pace because there's a lot of speed in that spot.
It is, the Rachel Alexander, and we'll actually, because it's Kentucky Oaks prep race, we'll have a preview for that in depth from Dr. Miranda later on the YouTube channel, so make sure you check that out, youtube.com/racingdudes. Mike, I had a fun surprise today. My other friend Mike, producer Mike, who lives in Las Vegas, was actually in Los Angeles today, so he swung by for a few hours, so we got to hang out and spend the morning together. So I haven't seen him in 2 years, almost to the day, because he's one of the last people I saw in person before the pandemic started when we were at Vegas for NHC in 2020, so it was a very pleasant surprise, but it also means that I exhausted myself of my talking. But some of you might like that, so it might be a quicker show. But it was a lot of fun. But listen, we've got a lot of horse racing to talk about. I can already tell from our ticket structures, Mike and I are going to have some interesting debates here. So let's get into it, buddy. Riders up. All right, Mike, kicking things off for the late pick 4 sequence at Gulfstream Park on Saturday, February 19th. And my computer just froze again. This always happens to us. Race 9 on the card. We've got a field of 8 older fillies and mares going for 5 furlongs on the turf course here. Your favorite, big heavy favorite, is 3, Hit the Woe at 9-5. And it's interesting that she's the favorite because she is stakes placed on the turf, but it came at a mile, and she's 0 for 3 on the turf when it comes to winning. So some people might look at this and say 9-5, that's a really short price. I'm going to use her, but I want to know what you did with Hit the Woe.
Yeah, I thought you Hit the Woe was must use here. I mean, yeah, she's 0 for 3 on the turf, but that was in $200,000+ stakes races in a grade 3. Those were her 3 turf races. Yeah. That's pretty tough company when you compare that to, the 2 horse who just got claimed for $20K. So I would say this is a slight step down in class from the turf races that Hit the Woe has been in the past. I've Hit the Woe as a second pick. I think this kind of just trips out here for the 8 horse Traverse, who should be able to sit right behind the speed. And there is quite a bit of it in this spot. Should be able to sit right behind that speed, get first run, and play catch me if you can down the lane. Jaramillo, excellent over this track. I think that this kind of just sets up very, very well for the 8 horse Traverse. So I'm going to use Traverse on top. I do have Hit the Woe as my second horse. I'm going to use one of the speed horses because I think one of them is a little bit interesting. Did you use the 3 or the 8 in your ticket?
3 was my top pick. Yeah, I mean, I thought you nailed it pretty well. She's classy. It's Christophe Clement. So when he takes a stakes horse and drops her back down, and she's going to actually, by the way, this is the first time she's ever faced non-stakes company on turf. So you talked about that 0 for 3. This is the easiest turf field that she's faced by far. So I think that's a good spot for her. Irad Riding is a good choice. I know who you used, the other horse you used, and I was close to adding, and I actually could afford to add her. So you might be able to convince me, but we'll get to that in a second. The other one I used for sure is the 6 Zia's Song. It's a Safi Joseph Jr. This is the trainer I think could have a really big day at Gulfstream Park on Saturday, especially in this pick 4. And nobody's going to pay attention because we're all watching Fairgrounds while Safi cleans up a little bit at Gulfstream Park here. This is a filly who graduated last February at this course, breaking her maiden pretty nicely with Castellano in the saddle. And then you see she has some injury problems. Literally, after her second career start, she's vanned off the track. We don't see her again until July, and then we miss a time again until January. Second off the layoff, which I think, first of all, shows that she's finally healthy, which is nice to see. But they tried putting her on the turf course last time out. It didn't work. Now she's going back on the turf. Safi's adding blinkers, and that's a pretty big move, 25% for first-time blinkers for his barn. So I like that all of this is happening. I will say that if she really was all that great, Irad probably would have ridden her by now because that's usually Safi's go-to. Tyler's been on board, but just once, so it kind of worries me a little bit. But I also think, Reyes isn't going to be on the 8 horse, so maybe Reyes chose the 6 over it. It's a little bit of jockeying around there, no pun intended. But I'm going to use the 6. I know you didn't. Tell me why.
Yeah, I mean, the 6 was actually my 4th horse in,
okay.
and I only went 3 deep here, so I'm not going to knock the 6 here. I think it makes sense that the 77 buyer winning back on February 28th made a ton of sense. The horse ran very well that day, but with 16-1, this horse never seems to get bet. I don't really want to take the shortest price of her career here. Second off the layoff in a race that has a plethora of speed, and I think she kind of needs the lead to win. I don't know that Zia's Song can necessarily come from off it. The Reyes part of it is definitely concerning for me. Reyes is 2 for 10 for the barn, so not bad, but it's definitely not first call for Safi on his bigger horses. And like you said, this horse has never really gotten the bigger jockeys for Safi. It's one of the reasons why it's always been a price. I like I mentioned, I think that the class of this race is the 3 and the 8. I'm intrigued by the 2 missing link. This horse, if you go back, broke its won for 20,000, 3 back over this Gulfstream Park turf. That was a stretch of 3 straight wins. The horse has won 4 times on this turf course, 4 for 7, 4 for 7 at the distance. There is no other horse in this race who has won more. Who's won more on the turf at this specific distance. Tracy Ann's Legacy has 7, but no one's been as consistent as the 2 horse missing link has been in a shorter career. And the key for me here is Peter Walder snaps this horse up, and now we're flipping this horse back to turf off the synthetic. You get Castellano up. That last race, and this has been something we've preached on here, when you have a horse that goes out 23-3, 45-2 up front on the synthetic and then quits and then goes to the turf, that's a very good time to bet the horse because the turf course holds speed. The synthetic kills speed. So you are literally going from a bias against to a bias for, and you have inside speed here on the 2. I'm going to give Missing Link a shot at a price here and see if Walder can move it forward.
Yeah, you convinced me. She's on the ticket for me. I was back and forth. You know what? Also, the 8-1 price is going to be pretty nice too, because I think that Hit the Woe is going to, understandably, deservingly so, take a ton of money here. And for me, that's going to make the prices better on some of these horses. All three horses that I used here, let me check you. No, all three horses that I used are second off of the layoff and second time at age 4. So I really like. I've noticed that there's a specific angle I kind of used when handicapping this race, but you used 2 of them, so I don't think I'm too far off here.
Yeah, the other one that's second off a layoff, second is a 4-year-old that's a little interesting for lower connections is the 5 at 15-1 as well. I mean, that's another horse where was supposed to be on the synthetic, or was supposed to be on the turf, gets scratched off the turf, runs poorly on the synthetic. But if you go back to the maiden breaking score, horse was 9-1, was able to sit just off the lead and be able to get the job done, going 21-1, 44-3 on the front end here, going 5 furlongs on the turf course. Like that, if we can take a step forward, second out, and Liam's Map's a darn good sire horse. The hammer came down for 130,000 with this horse. Like, there's something to like about the 5-2 at a price, but I ended up not going that deep. If you want to add the 5, I don't think it's a terrible idea. I'm playing a $5 ticket that costs $20, and I'm playing a 50-cent ticket that costs $36. So you can definitely add to that 50-cent one if you'd like to along the way. I'm going to go 2-3-6 here on the 50-cent ticket. I'm going to go, or 2-3-8 here on the 50-cent ticket. I'm going to go 3-8 on the $5 ticket.
And I'm 2-3-6. Before we get out of here, Nick says that he's going 3-4-8. He likes the 4 Barracuda at 20-1, and kind of a reason I can't really, I'm not going to hate and knock you for it, but why the 4 and the 5 similarly stayed off for me. As Mike talked about, there's a lot of pace in here. I don't think that these have very strong staying power with these two. So if you want to use them, you're getting 15-1, 20-1. You're definitely going to get the value on it. Just Mike, probably same reason why. There's just a lot of speed, and they seem like need the leads.
Connection issue here for me too. Kelly Blake is 1 for 39. He also owns the horse. Doesn't seem to place the horse properly throughout its career. Seems like it's been a little bit over his head. I mean, the last 6 races we've been at least 15-1, including 50-1 plus in 4 of those 6. It's just asking a lot for this horse. And now we're down to the 25K level. I don't really know if that's the right level yet. I'm not sure if we found the right conditions here for the 4.
Keep plunging, keep plunging. We'll head down second leg of the late pick 4 sequence at Gulfstream Park on Saturday, February 19th, race 10. We're going to the synthetic course. 9 older males in for $10,000 claiming tags here. They're going to mile 16th on the synthetic. 6 of them exit the same last out race. And actually, it should be 7 because the number 5 Jiha was entered and actually scratched out of that race. So really, 7 of the 9 of these horses faced each other last time out. The winner was the 8-horse Rocket Joe Copper, and he's the 3-1 favorite. The horse that just missed by a neck is twice the price at 6-1. That's the 3-horse Farley. But I'm real curious. This is a mess of a race. Where are you going?
Yeah, I'm putting Rocket Joe Copper on top. When you go back and you watch that race, Rocket Joe Copper did absolutely nothing wrong. It was swung 5 wide. That was also first time off the layoff since September 2021, almost a 5-month break. Kathleen O'Connor, not one of those trainers that necessarily fires right off the layoff. Now we're getting her second off the layoff, a horse that fits the track bias perfectly, able to swing wide and close late. Paco's been riding well on the synthetic. To me, it's all systems go here on Rocket Joe Copper. I think the horse makes a ton of sense. I'm going to end up using the 8 here as one of the 2 must-uses. The other one I included was the 4-horse. A tread. This horse was claimed last 2 back into the Gustave Delgado barn. He's generally very good first off the claim, and the horse ran pretty well. Ira Ortiz was interested enough to take this mount. Was favored 2 back, was favored 3 back, was favored last time. So we're burning a little bit of money. We're always coming close, but not getting the job done. We're adding blinkers here, which I think is awfully interesting. It's a 20% move for Gustavo Delgado as a trainer. I'm kind of interested to see how this horse runs with blinkers, and I love Castellano over this synthetic course. So for me, the 4 and the 8 are the 2 must-uses, and they're the 2 that made the $5 ticket.
I'll agree with you on one of them. I used Rocket Joe Copper. Wasn't my top pick. I didn't use the 4 at all. I felt like I was going very chalky, and I know you kind of did too, and that's why you've also got the $5 ticket. I didn't do that, so I went a little sneaky, and I was like, I got to split one of these 2 up. So I went with the 8. He's on a 3-race win streak, and it's on multiple surfaces. I mean, that synthetic win, that was his first time trying it, and he goes, oh, yeah, that was fine. I can handle that too. So it's hard for me to say, even defensively, you got to use him at some point here. My top pick is actually the horse that almost won last out at is now 6-1, and that's Farley. And I know you're going to say, listen, Magic, you don't want speed on the Gulfstream Park synthetic course. And listen, I agree with you, especially last time out. This horse was the farthest outside drawn of the 3 horses in that race with triple-digit time form early pace figures. This is the only horse with that kind of a speed. It's a huge gap to second, which is the 4 Utrecht. I think there's a chance that the 3 could go gate to wire. The fact that the horse was facing last time out at this exact same level faced two other pace horses that were fighting very hard with this, or the horse didn't get the lead initially, and almost wins, just misses by a neck to the favorite that we're both using. I'm going to use, because I think the pace setup is actually sneaky here if you're not paying attention to what the horse faced last time versus what he's going to face here. But I understand you play Gulfstream a lot more than me, so I understand if you're like lone speed, still don't want it going 2 turns.
Yeah, problem for me is that's just such an anomaly, because the 3 previous races, I mean, especially the one 2-back and 4-back, the horse got loose and got caught. And those are both at 1.16 miles, which is what we're going today. The 2 races at 1.70 miles, where he was close to the lead, held on for second. That extra 16th of a mile, man, that is the problem for Farley here. And you've seen that in the last 4 races, where the 2.16 mile efforts, terrible. The 2 mile efforts, very good. Unfortunately for you, we're going 1.16 miles today. So even though we are lone speed, we're still rail, we'll still be up there, and we got that extra 8 or half a furlong to deal with, which I think is going to be the undoing of Farley.
I think that I will say that, at least in his defense, Rafi Hernandez is going to be the best jockey that's been on this horse. And, Jose Ortiz rode back last February, so we'll go back then. So within the last year, this is the best jockey that's been aboard. But, again, you make great points against the 3. Keep going. Who are you using after this?
All right, we're going to include the 1 next, Devoted Kitten. And,
Love it.
We got one of the comments here in the stream from Nick. I think he brings up a great point. Look, Chantel Sutherland, fine jockey, not Irad Ortiz, right? So we're picking up a huge jockey step forward here with Irad Ortiz Jr. This is another Walder first off the claim. He's 19% off the claim, so that's excellent as well. Here's the thing. You go back to that race, 5-back, where we're going 4-back, we're going 1.16 over that Gulfstream Park synthetic. Runs an 85 buyer, wins for fun. That destroys this field, right?
Yes.
If we go back to that, say, sayonara, this sucker's over. 2 races after that took steps up in class. Last time we were at 1.70 miles. This horse wants more distance. I think 5-1 is a gift of a price if we can get it. Kitten's Joy, great synthetic sire, sits the right style here. I think there's a lot of things to like about the 1 Devoted Kitten.
Yeah, I do. What's going on with my camera? Yeah, I do too. I love the 1. Keep it going. No, actually, that's as far as we agree. So go ahead and talk about the last one, because I considered the 2 for a minute. The 2 is Dr. Shane at 6-1 for Danny Gargan. I ultimately left off, but I did consider him.
Yeah, look, the 2 horse has sneaky tactical speed, and that's the reason I ended up using the 2 here. If you go back to the races on the turf, going 7.5 furlongs at 1 mile at Gulfstream back in January through March of last year, this horse was 1.5, 2 lengths off the lead, sitting a nice trip on the inside, was actually pretty close to a 45-second flat pace at Belmont on June 10th as well. So you have tactical speed here with the 2 Dr. Shane. That's kind of what you saw last time. It was first time in the Gargan barn, which I think is, first time back to the Gargan barn, which I think is important as well. If you look at those good races, they were all with Danny Gargan. Then you have 3 races in the middle, not that great, all with Jesus Cruz. Now you're back in the Gargan barn, gets the job done first time out, should again sit another tactical trip here, probably the 2nd or 3rd fastest horse in this race, even though Timeform disagrees with me. I wouldn't be shocked if the 2 is sitting right behind the 3 or to the inside of the 3 and kind of trips out in this spot and has somewhat of a kick home. If we improve at all off that last race, good night. If we run back to those Gulfstream races before, this horse can get the job done. I think 6-1 is a decent price. And I'm a Miguel Vasquez fan in general, so I've got no issues with the jock here.
Well, and now that does Gargan, they're 24% together, and Gargan 31% on the synthetic. 5 for 16, I believe that ends up being. Listen, I think for me, once I started adding up all of the horses I was using, somebody had to make the cut, and this is the 1. And it's a slight knock. The field that he beat was non-winners of 3 non-winners of 1 in a year. I'm thinking of a different horse. Non-winners of a single race within a year. So these were horses that, not necessarily in form, I guess maybe a good way to describe, slightly higher class here. But again, 16,000, 10,000 claimer, I think it kind of evens out a little bit. If you want to use the horse, I'm not going to knock you for it. The last one on for me, I talked about him, is going to be the 5 Jihad. Listen, Safi, I'm telling you, Safi's going to have a big day here. The horse, if he runs to how it was 2-back when he's going 1 mile on the 16th, that race was very solid for him. We're getting Lino Reyes, which we just talked about before. Isn't Safi's go-to, but 2 for 10 with a healthy ROI on it. I like that Safi is 24% off of similar layoffs. He's 25% when he's on synthetic. The fact that he was going to be in that January 30th race that everyone else is in, I'm like, all right, he thinks this horse is at least as good enough to compete with the rest of those donkeys before. We'll bring him down to this level. First time at age 4, he was facing older horses and beat older horses at age 3 last October, so I thought that was something in his angle. But again, that beaten claimer, the 8,000 race that he beat, those were non-winners of 3 lifetimes. So again, a lower class that he's now stepping up to. We'll see how he does at age 4.
Yeah, I just... Off the layoff at that price, I'm not interested. But I mean,
I don't like the price.
I would want in the 10-1 range there on that horse. I don't think I'm getting anywhere near that. Because I do think this is a step up in class off that 8,000 win. It's obviously level to what he faced last time, but last time he finished 9th, 4 lengths back. So not great. So yeah, but again, this is another one that could be tactical. I mean, you could probably see Jihad sitting, right outside of the 2-horse here in that second flight and have a nice trip. So I wouldn't try and talk you off it. I would want a little bit better of a price.
The only 2 horses we haven't talked about, they both also exit that January 30th race. Buffalo Max was 8th in that race. He's 12-1 here. Lucas and Laurie was last of 11 by about a mile and a half and is 30-1. I don't think, usually we joke about, putting the other horses that we don't talk about into the winner's circle. I'm not really that worried about these ones. If they do it, Mike, I don't think we ever had a chance.
If they do it, it's Buffalo Max, and it'll be a surprise. Because, look, Buffalo Max won 2 back, but that was an absolute pace collapse. I mean, they went 144 on the synthetic, and they fell apart. I don't think this is going to fall apart. There's just not enough speed up front.
All right, Mike, let's move on. The third leg of the late pick 4 sequence is the prep for the Dubai Golden Shaheen, or if your name is Drain the Clock, because we're in the Gulfstream Park Sprint. Field of 6 in here, 6 sprinters, 6 furlongs on dirt. Drain the Clock, Diamond Oops. There can be only one. Where are you going on top?
Give me Diamond Oops. Look, I respect the hell out of Drain the Clock, but there is so much speed in this race. And that to me is what really came down to. I mean, Doc Amster's going to want to go. You're going to see speed from Frentelli, who's the 2-horse. You're going to see speed from Gatsby on the inside, who last time dueled with Drain the Clock. I think you're going to have 3 horses that absolutely go forward. I think Diamond Oops is the one who sits right behind the wall of 3 and just trips out. I think Drain the Clock is probably a more talented horse. I think Diamond Oops gets the trip, and that's the difference here. So I'm going 5-6 in my 50-cent ticket, but I'm singling the 5 here on the $5 ticket to try and put a little bit of value and beat your morning line favorite, Drain the Clock, who I respect the heck out of, but I think is in a tough spot in this specific race.
He is, and it's his first start at age 4. He did face older horses late last year when he was 3 in a field that included Gatsby was optional claimers, and really not much there. I Drain the Clock's going to be my top choice. If you've been listening, paying attention to the whole show, Safi Joseph, hello. But Irad's going to keep riding, and I love this horse. It's 4 for 5 at Gulfstream Park. The only time that he lost, he was second, but it was going 2 turns. So I'm going to forgive him for that because this horse is not a 2-turn horse. Listen, I think this is one of the best sprinters going to come into this year from like the second tier. This isn't your elite level, but this is definitely a very solid second tier horse who at age 4 maybe he continues to develop. He is by McLean's Music, so the fact that he's already got 11 career starts is probably 8.5 more than they probably thought they were going to get from him. But there is a lot of speed in here. I agree with you on that, and that's what actually led me to my other choice. It's not Diamond Oops. I'm going to go with the 4 Miles Ahead. I think Miles Ahead is going to get forgotten in this field because you have the 5 and the 6. I think you're going to get a lot of attention there. Gatsby is the local Florida bred. He's going to get some attention. Miles Ahead is 6 for 9 at the distance. He's 9 for 17 at Gulfstream Park. He's riding basically a 3-race win streak in his mind because he lost by a neck when he was rallying late. Paco was aboard the last 2. I think this horse is going to sit right behind that speed as well. It's a matter of, is he going to have a better kick or is Diamond Oops? I'm going to go with this horse because I think he's a little bit more in form. And you know what? It's funny with Diamond Oops. I'll ask you about this. When I think Diamond Oops, I think turf sprinter. This horse is 1 for 7 on the turf, and he's like everything else comes on dirt. But I always think of him as a turf sprinter. Do you ever do that with Diamond Oops?
No, I think he's a dirt sprinter. I think that's one of the reasons why he's 3-1. I think this is a really muddy form. I mean, the last 2 races were both on turf. They were both good races, but they lost to In Love and Gear Jockey the last 2. Darn good horses, right? But those were both on turf. And then the 2 previous to that are both at Gulfstream, both on the dirt. Didn't run as well in the Smile Sprint after doing very, very well and beating Miles Ahead the previous race. And then you were back on the turf before that. And then you go before that, it's 7 furlongs. And then it's 2 grade 2s at Keeneland where you run really well on the dirt and 1. The other one is the Breeders' Cup Sprint. I mean, it's just a really tough form when you peel through this thing. I mean, and we forget this horse ran in the Mr. Prospector at 7 furlongs and then ran in the Pegasus Invitational. It just a really, really odd progression here from Diamond Oops. But if you ask me, what is Diamond Oops the best at? Dirt sprinting. I think this is what he's the best at. And so It's tough for me at 3-1 to pass on him. Now, he also was entered at Tampa. If he ends up running at Tampa, Miles Ahead would be my single here. That's the other closer. I think the speed is going to burn each other up. I'd be 4-6 on the 50-cent ticket and single the 4 on the $5 ticket.
Gotcha. So, okay, sorry, thanks. You said you would single the 4, so on the $5 ticket specifically that he replaces the 5. Perfect. Thanks for clarifying that one. Diamond Oops, I mean, he's a fun horse, and you've got to love a horse that just shows up everywhere. Jeremy Balin would love to vote for him for an Eclipse Award, just because he shows up and he fills fields and makes things fun. Listen, Drain the Clock, the point that I talked about, but this is considered for him a prep for the Dubai Golden Shaheen. So assuming he does well here and comes out of it well, that's where he'll end up. We will end up on the fourth and final leg of the late pick 4 sequence at Gulfstream Park on Saturday, February 19th. Mike, we're going to the turf for this 1 mile route, maiden 3-year-olds in for $35,000 or $30,000 tags. Your favorite is actually a horse that I own a small piece of. That is the 9 Quantum Theory at 2-1. Almost gets the job done on the synthetic. So hey, why not try the turf? It's just the same, right? We'll ask Chad Brown. He disagrees. Where are you going on top?
Look, I'm going to eat chalk here. Quantum Theory should just destroy this field. I mean, this is one of those horses. If I get 2-1, I'm backing up the Brakes truck on Saturday. I don't think we're getting 2-1 on this horse. We often talk about when the best horse is also the fastest horse and lone speed. That's a big problem for the rest of the field. Guess what? The best horse is also the fastest horse and lone speed in this spot, and that's Quantum Theory. And why do you go from the synthetic over to the turf? Because we showed speed on the synthetic and couldn't go wire to wire essentially there. You were against the track bias. Horse catches Quantum Theory late. Quantum Theory ends up running second. Now we're switching over to the surface where you're holding speed significantly better. The 9 makes just a boatload of sense here. I'm gonna close the $5 ticket with the 9 single.
Oh, well, God bless you. I appreciate that. Listen, there is no way in hell, because he's run back for this $35,000 tag. I don't think there's any way in hell that he stays in the barn after this race.
I would be very surprised.
With all those trainers and barns down there, there's no way he stays. So, hey, let's go out with a win. I would love it. He's my top pick. I'm glad to hear somebody who's not biased and can look at this. He also, the horse that beat him in his debut when he was on dirt at Tampa, Pioneer of Medina, broke his maiden, went to Fairgrounds and won, and I believe is in the Risen Star this weekend. So the horse with at least plenty of class to go on to the Derby Trail from there, whereas he goes to the claiming tag. So, all right, I'm using him. You're using him. Let's see. Do we have any agreement anywhere else? We do not. All right. Who do you want to talk about next?
Oh, let's go to the 2-horse.
All right.
Actually, the 2-horse is my third pick. Let's go to the 4-horse, my second pick.
We do like this same horse. Okay. We like the 4-horse. Talk about the 4-horse first of all.
Look, first of all, just really interesting horse. It was claimed for $100,000 first time out at Churchill. Let me say that again. It was claimed for $100,000 first time out at Churchill. It was a homebred at that time, so it was a really interesting claim. The horse went off at 25-1. Makes it even more interesting because rarely does a 25-1 shot and a $100,000 maiden claim or first start get claimed. I mean, that means you clearly think you know something. And, well, unfortunately for them, they didn't. We went up to 150K claimer. The horse ran okay, runs fourth.
Can I pause you real quick?
Yeah.
How much do you think they actually thought someone was going to take the horse for 150K? Like, do you think they were like, guys, we're going to flip this horse for 50K? Watch this.
Zero chance. I'd like, especially when the horse went off at 25-1 and did nothing. If the horse goes off at 25-1 and airs, then maybe we can talk about this. But the horse goes off at 25-1 and does absolutely nothing. And then you go enter into $53,000 maiden special weight. That was the first try on the turf. I thought the horse ran pretty well. It just kind of was stuck on the inside the whole race. Never really got to open up. I didn't like the ride from Bridge Mahan. We're switching over from Bridge Mahan to Gonzalez, who's been riding very well at Gulfstream Park. It's his first off a layoff. Jeff Hillis is 29% in this spot, which is ridiculous. I think he's 3 for 14. Son of Violence. As I always like. I think second time on turf. First time out as a 3-year-old, we're going to take a step forward. So Versatile at 6-1, I thought was interesting.
First time Lasix too. I think maybe that'll help him a little bit. A horse that seems to drag a lot. This is something I'm trying to think of from handicapping when maybe the Lasix will help this horse, try and catch his breath, because if he's not fast early, super fast early, maybe, he'll catch his breath and come running. And yeah, Edwin Gonzalez, that is Mark Cassie's new little favorite boy toy down at Gulfstream Park. So definitely a great horse to use there. All right. So this is where we're going to split, because we did both like the 9 and the 4. Honestly, after this point, it doesn't matter. Because then I think the 9 horse is going to win. Nick agrees with us in the chat. Where do you want to go beyond this though?
I only used one other horse, the 2-horse Irish King,
on
the 50-cent ticket. This is one where, Treasure Beach getting first-time turf. That first effort on the synthetic was even. The horse didn't go off at a super low price, went off at 11-1 with Sai as a board. But if you watch the start, it wasn't great. I mean, the horse had some trouble, kind of steadied, kind of bumped. I think with a better break, you would have seen more from Irish King. I like the fact that Irad sees fit to pick this mount up, and I think the horse is going to take a nice step forward second time. This is, again, David Fox, 39% second-time starter. So he is, 5 for 18 with second-time starters right now. So I think that Irish King has a good shot at taking a step forward here second time on the turf. I think the 9 is going to win this race. It's why I'm playing that $5 ticket through the 9. But I'm going to go 2-4-9 on the 50-cent ticket.
There we go. Am I back?
Yeah, sort of.
Sort of.
You're
glitching. What happened there. Yeah, I can tell. I have no idea what happened. I can see this. Sorry. The two, listen, the runner, I don't know if you mentioned, but the runner-up won from that race next out and got a very nice buyer. I think a 67 buyer. So something that would be very nice and definitely would beat this field. For me, the other horses I'm going to use in here, we talked about the 4, we talked about the 9. Let's talk about the 5 for a little bit. Tap It Brio is beaten, 7 of these horses before when he's running for a higher price tag. I like the class drop. I think it's a good spot. They've clearly tried to put the horse on turf twice now. Actually, they've tried 4 times. Twice it's worked. So a horse that they keep trying to go to turf. Now we're going to drop it down for a lower claiming tag here at $35,000. The works on the turf say that the horse should be able to handle it. So I'm going to go ahead and bank that maybe this kind of a class drop is going to work out well. The barn likes to use Luca Panici, doesn't win with him, but at least he shows up on some of the horses. And then I'm also going to use the 6 Ableton for John Kimmel. It's a second-time starter. Debuted at a mile on this turf course, which is a very difficult thing for horses to do. They bring him right back. It is a twirling candy out of a mare that should had plenty of turf pedigree as well. So I think that this is a decent spot. The horse was clearly not bet on debut, but you don't want to touch a lot of these horses when they're debuting at a mile. The barn for John Kimmel, 17% with maidens making their second start. So I'm hoping that this is a good spot for the horse. I'm getting 10-1, not the 32-1 from before, but again, taking a big class drop down to the 35-2.
Yeah, I mean, the 5 is a terrible pick. That horse isn't winning. It needs the lead, and it's not going to be able to get it. It doesn't like to pass anything. So I'm not a big fan of the 5. I think the 6 is a little interesting. Ableton, I think, is a decent shot there at 10-1. That workout last time out, it's, again, a sneaky one because it's 11-41, but going 47-2 over the turf course for 4 furlongs, I think is interesting. I think you're going to see more speed from Ableton this time out. And I wouldn't be shocked if you see a nice representation of that 6 horse.
Were there any horses in here that we talked about that maybe you're worried about? Because I know Quantum Theory is going to be a very short price, probably going to get claimed out. Is there anybody that you haven't talked about that you are worried about?
Honestly, no. I thought this field came up pretty weak. I love Practical Joke, but I'm not really interested in Practical Joke breaking out an 11-hole going 2 turns. That doesn't seem like a great idea. You kind of go through some of the prices. They don't make a ton of sense. I guess you could talk a little bit about the 3. But the 3, I think is probably better bred here for this than the first race it ran in, but kind of quit pretty bad going 5.5. So not really that much interest there. Robert DeBona has the horse on the rail that's breaking. It's going to run for the first time. I would say it's probably like the other long shot I consider, just because this field isn't great and that's an unknown.
That's true.
But it's the reason why I think it sets up so well for the 9 horse here. If we take any step forward off that 10th race, the 9 horse should win this by 3.
That's going to do it for this episode of the Magic Mike Show. Thanks for joining Mike and I to go through Gulfstream Park's late pick 4 sequence on Saturday, February 19th. We're going to go ahead and give out our tickets one last time. If you're watching, go ahead and take a peek below. I'll start off, Mike. I'm going to go for 50 cents, 236 with 1358 with 46 with 4569. That's $48.
I'm going to play 2 tickets for 50 cents. I'm going to go 238 with 1248 with 56 with 249. That's $36. And then I'm going to press some opinions here. Play a $5 ticket. Go 38 with 48 with 5 with 9. That'll cost you $20 for $5.
And I'll throw it up here because he posted his hammer ticket. Nick Feldman is a very sharp listener of the Magic Mike Show if you're unfamiliar. Nick's going 3-8 with 1-8 with 6 with 9. And he's going to hammer that for a $25 base. I mean, he is a big fan of the IRAD movement as well. So I didn't use IRAD, and that's the Irish King jockey in the last. And it kind of made me wonder maybe I should add him as well. But we'll see how things turn out. Listen, if you want to get our actual tickets on the day, if anything changes, make sure you follow us on Twitter. I'm at Kalleward. He's at Somobomb 18, number 1, number 8. But before we go, Mike, we do have the big weekend ahead at Fairgrounds with the Risen Star Stakes. Let's just focus on the one race. We did a little preview of it before, but on the last Magic Mike Show, you're still sticking with Smile Happy?
Yeah, I mean, the morning line came out at 7-2. That's freaking wild. You're not getting 7-2 or anything near it on Smile Happy.
On Smile Happy?
Yeah, 7-2. Like wild. Like I don't know.
Did the morning line odds maker not watch a race since the Jockey Club?
If I could bet under or over 7-2, I would literally bet every dollar I own that he goes off under 7-2. I mean, that horse is going to get hammered off of that price. I still think you're looking at 6-5, something like that. Some people were projecting around 2-1. I think that's even high for what you're going to see on this horse. Yeah, I still like Smile Happy the most. I think Bodok is interesting. The 9 horse. I think the 10 Slowdown Andy is interesting. I'm going to be against the 7 Zenden. I don't know what to do with Epicenter, who I think is probably the most difficult horse in the race to figure out. Epicenter is going to face a ton of pace pressure. I think Epicenter gets the lead again. But again, Epicenter is going to face a ton of pace pressure. So it's just tough to figure out what you want to do with that horse in this spot. this really sets up for the horses coming from off the pace, and to me, that's Smile Happy.
This is like Oaklawn levels morning line. Nick posted here 7-2 favorite is Smile Happy, Epicenter 4-1. Both of those will be lower. Papa Cap 4-1. That actually might be around there. Slow down Andy Zandon. I think Zandon goes up. I don't know.
How's Papa Cap 4-1? How could last race go any better and Papa Cap couldn't get by Epicenter?
Because you could argue second off the layoff. I mean, it's not a great argument. There's a lot more arguments against him. There is an argument for him improving. You could project theoretical improvement for him. Listen, I will say Epicenter was my pick before. I'm sticking with Epicenter because I think that the horse is absolutely not a need the lead type. I think what Epicenter really is going to be best at is stalking just off of the speed. And I think Rosario, he's done it a little bit in his career, but he hasn't done it that much Epicenter. But I think Rosario is going to really get the chance to play with that because you've got a lot of speed. You still got fucking Papa Cap drawn to his inside, which was kind of the bane of his existence last time out. So I think that works out. Slow down Andy. Let me ask you this. Is he on the board or is he completely off and we think that his win in the Los Al Futurity was a fluke?
Well, I mean, the answer could be both. It could be a fluke and he could hit the board. I think that's not out of the question. I'm probably using Slow Down Andy. Like, look, this is Nyquist. The Square Eddie on the bottom tells me sprinting and turf, which is the big concern. And it also, like Los Alamitos, Square Eddie makes a ton of sense. So there's a little bit of concern there. But this is Nyquist, Uncle Mo on the top side. Look, I don't think O'Neill is sending this horse here to lose. I think he thinks he's going to run pretty well. I wouldn't be shocked if Slow Down Andy was an early pace presence and ended up being right there, right at the end. I mean, I kind of like Slow Down Andy for second. I kind of feel like this is going to be Smile Happy. Slow Down Andy, Bo Rock is going to be the try, and I wouldn't be shocked if Epicenter is there battling for second or third. But I think it's those four horses that are the class of this field.
Epicenter, if you're listening, buddy, just remember who still loves you. Just remember who still loves you between us in the fantasy league. Oh, listen, it's tough. I will say.
Who won the draft Epicenter? I don't really remember.
Fantasy. We didn't have to really debate about it too much. Our decision was made for us. Thank you, Michael and Dan. No, listen, forget the fantasy stuff because most people really don't care about that. I think from a betting perspective, as Nick said in the chat, it's going to be a great betting race. I think you could make a case for several of these horses for and against, and definitely the hardest prep of the year. And listen, 13 races on the card. Go to racingnews.com. We've got the inside track to the Risen Star Stakes wagering guide available. Full coverage, all 13 races in depth of every single stakes race. But Aaron's been killing it with the guys this year as he usually does, so make sure you check that out. Also over at racingdudes.com/sports, the latest Dudes Who Bet Sports episode was today, so if you missed that, go and check that out. It's in podcast form. You can also check it out at youtube.com/racingdudes. I didn't get a chance to watch it. This is the first one that I've missed live in a really long time, so I'm very curious to see what happens here.
It's interesting. They're going to have to face a lull here. This summer lull for Dude Who's Bet Sports is going to be interesting because we have March Madness is coming up, so that'll keep you going. You got some of the NBA playoffs, but then it's just the doldrums of sports, man. The summer months are brutal. I can't wait to hear Papa Dude talking some hockey.
Yeah, well, I didn't know if they talked hockey today because they had the Blues were up. Oh, yeah, they dove in the NHL. All right, well, there you go. We'll check that out. Red Wings are at New York facing the Rangers. God help us all. Good luck. That's not going to go well. But listen, they were doing okay. Oh, real quick, before we get out of here, Nick brings up Trafalgar in the Risen Star Stakes. Listen, it's a nice horse. It's a horse I've been a big fan of. You know that, Nick. I just think he's a cut below. This feels like that grade 3 West Virginia Derby style winner. I think he's a great horse. I'd love to own him. I don't want to bet him in this race.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's the problem is he's just been flat. You haven't seen any real improvement in any of the 4 starts. And I think this is just kind of who he is. And like you said, that's going to be a second tier horse in this class. And it's not one that I think is going to be way up there.
If there's no baseball, it's Dudes Who Bet Golf. Listen, you could get, if every golf tournament was like that 16th hole in Phoenix where everybody goes crazy, I would watch golf all the time. I wanted to just watch that all, but it's not. But golf's a little too low key for me, unfortunately.
Yeah, I know he's adding blinkers, Nick. But the question is blinkers going to improve him by 20%, right? Which is probably what you need here to be competitive. 10 to 20% improvement because of blinkers. I think that's going to be tough. I think I agree with Magic. I think he's a solid horse. Losing the Classic Causeway, nothing wrong with that. In the first start at Saratoga, then obviously be able to get the job done twice in a row. But it's one of those spots where you're really going to need to see a pretty big turnaround. And I think the waters are a lot deeper than the last race. I mean, I realize that, Epicenter runs second in that race, Papa Cap third. If I think Epicenter is running fourth in this race, that means that you got to really improve if you're coming if you're third in that last race. So I feel like the waters are a lot deeper. I think there are 3 or 4 horses in here that are better than anyone that was in that field, considering the setup.
Well, listen, if you're having fun listening to Mike and I talk about horse racing, especially if you care about the fairgrounds, we're going to be doing another live show this weekend, so make sure you tune in. We'll be covering the late pick 4 sequence at fairgrounds, which I believe starts at about 5:27 Eastern time on Saturday. So we'll be live covering the late pick 4 sequence. There'll be a bunch of us in, and it's a lot of fun. We'll do like a pick 4 draft ticket. We've had a lot of you join us before, so we'd really love if you could do that again. Go to youtube.com/racing dudes, subscribe, and there's a little notification bell. If you hit that, you'll get alerted every single time we go live, so make sure you do that. Leave us a like below on this video. We'd really appreciate it as well. Anything else, Mike, before we get out of here?
That's all I got.
Let's get out of here then. All right, we will see you back here on Monday if we don't see you on Saturday, but until then, I'm Magic.
And I'm Mike.
Thanks for joining us. Good luck, everybody.
This has been a presentation of RacingDudes.com, your destination for all things horse racing and sports betting. Whether you want free winners, expert insider picks, up-to-the-minute trackside weather reports, or podcasts and videos for bettors of all skill levels, never make another wager without visiting the Racing Dudes first.